Thank you.
Well, but this is not only happening in Andalusia. This is what was done when the Human Development Index started and so on, and that was done taking data from many developing and developed countries. Here we could see that there are theoretically a bit more differences on developing countries and less on developed countries, but the same scheme, the same model is repeated and could be seen in all countries. If coming back to Europe, this came from an article we have just published on Feminist Economics, an international journal, and where we are doing a new clustering of European welfare system, including time use and gender differences. And well, there you have, there are not all countries, just the one we have homogeneous data to compare, okay? So there are some missing countries there, but these are the one we could deal with homogeneous data. And what is important is that you have the same, well, same pattern in all countries, in the sense that women are more specialized on domestic work and men on paid work. But there are also important differences. If you see, for instance, Sweden or Norway, you see that at least men and women have the same total work. Obviously, when you look inside, women do much more unpaid work and men do much more paid work. But at least they have the same free time, which is already something compared to other countries, like, for instance, Spain or Italy, where differences among total work for women and men is really very, very, very big. So as I told you, these countries with this familiar type of provision of welfare derive in a much more inegalitarian gender relations. Well, as I said, there are similarities, and could you still, just one, also this similarities and differences I have already said, and normally these are traditional explanations for on that issue, saying that obviously women are concentrated on household work because of different on productivity and opportunity cost, but all the sort of historical studies show us that what is important is the resilience and the reconstruction of gender stereotypes on. So why we have to fight, sorry, what I said before, against gender stereotypes, because they are really in the base of those of real gender differences. Because, for instance, the historical studies show that women integrate in the labor market when they have good opportunities. And if they are well integrated in the labor market with good salaries and good jobs and so on and so forth, and also obviously having possibilities for reconciliation, work and family life and personal life, they improve the bargaining time, the bargaining possibilities for time use inside the household. So it is very, I mean, this is, I think, this is very important. However, as I said, there are important difference. Could you, please? Yeah. And then, as I was telling you before, the most inegalitarian results, both income or gender, and derive from market and family-oriented models. But this is, I think, the model we are shifting towards this provision of welfare. We are moving from more public provision of welfare, even in countries that were more sort of public-oriented, towards a more market and family-oriented model, and even the inclusion of civil society. And that this shift or this trend has increased very much because of the economic crisis. And what we see is a shift on the activity from sort of a formal market arena towards informal and domestic economy. So that is that happens absolutely in at least in all the, thank you, in all the crises. We have a study from the 1970s up to now, and what we say is that during a period of growth we see a big formal market economy and small informal economy, and the other one is the domestic unpaid economy. And what happened in periods of crisis is that a formal economy reduced, thank you, and informal economy and household economy increase. This has important gender, for instance, consequences. Especially, is very well documented on developing countries, in poor countries, where many girls, for instance, are taken out from the school because families has less money to buy goods and services in the market, and they have to do themselves. And they substitute this one thing from the other. And many girls, for instance, are taken out from the school in order to help in this unpaid economy. But not only in the developing countries, because we have in one study we were doing in Andalusia in 2009. It was about reconciliation, and we interviewed over 2,000 people, just employed people, and we were asking women and men if they have reconciliation problems. And all women said, yes, we have reconciliation problems. Men only have reconciliation problems if their partners were also working, were also employed in the labor market, but not the ones that they were not employed in the their partners were not employed in the labor market. But when we came back to women and see which one have more reconciliation problems, we saw that the ones with more reconciliation problems were not the one having also their partners employed, but the one they have their partners unemployed. So, and it's because obviously there is less money in the family, but this unemployment is not creating a new reorganization of gender differences. So I have now to rush because I have already three only minutes left. So I think your conclusions and policy recommendations are already showing this shift towards a sort of less public model of provision of care, towards a more sort of family, market, and even civil society oriented. I think the importance of family network is very clear. The importance of civil society, for instance, the experience of time banks that is mentioned, I think is a good example, or how civil society could step into this provision of care, or these exchanges, and market provision of care and self-employment beyond retirement age. So I think all are important innovative solutions, especially in time of crisis, but I think this is not enough if we want to guarantee poverty reduction, social inclusion and cohesion, gender equality, and demographic recovery. My main policy recommendations are, in fact, two, in top of the ones you have done that I think are very good for time crisis, but I think they are not enough for. The first thing is we cannot analyze social policies and social innovation separately from economic policy and economic model. And the actual economic policy and the actual economic model does not guarantee social inclusion. On the contrary, it's generating more and more and more inequality. So we have to be aware of that and trying to change it. And best practices and very good social laws in Spain. We have the best probably gender law in the world, very good one, cannot fully develop within this economic framework. This is just generating, I said, inequality of income and gender. And the second thing is that we need really to look seriously, very, very, very seriously, to total workload. Otherwise, we could be solving one problem but generating another one for certain people, especially depending on their income level or gender. For instance, we're saying I'm just finishing with that. First thing we can say is obviously employment for people beyond retirement age. It's good if you look for that individual, say, well, could be a good solution. Well, it depends if that individual is a university professor, as I am. Obviously, I could work until 75, maybe, I hope, or whatever. But maybe a building worker cannot work longer than 60 years old or something. So we have to distinguish, I think, very well on that. But if we're saying that, oh, those people, we need to employ those people. But let's think that many of those retired people are the ones supporting care in many countries, informal care in many countries. Because in Spain, for instance, if the grandmother and the grandfather are not taking care of children, and now, obviously, the system has improved a lot. I mean, the provision of kindergarten and so on has improved a lot. Maybe younger people could not be in the labor market, especially women. So when we said, or we make a policy recommendation, please think on the total workload. Otherwise, we could be solving one problem, as I said, but creating another one. So the two things, just finishing, is we have to rethink very, very much the economic model and economic policies they are developing now in Europe, because I think they will create more social exclusion and more inequality, and we need to look to total workload, especially if we want to reach gender equality. Thank you very much, I think, right?
Thank you so much, Lina Galvez Munoz. I already thought that women worked harder than men, but
now
I'm so happy that you told us here. Yes, very good. One question: where do you present your story, of course, in Spain, but you also do that for the UNDP, right?
Yes.
So you travel through Europe?
Not much to Europe. I have done well. I belonged for many years to European network that was Gender and Wellbeing, Work, Family and Public Policies that has just finished for the European Science Foundation. And yes, we have traveled quite a lot in Europe, and also we have participated in the United Nations program for development, and just sharing those experiences and trying to make the world a better place for everybody, not for just a few.
Very nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.